with Arvind Sanger, who's now joining in, partner Geosphere Capital Management. Arvind, good to have you on board. And given the fact that you have the big four retaining their portfolios, just wanted to get in a sense as to what you expect in terms of the overall market reaction, because it seems that continuity was the need of the hour, and you saw those knee-jerk reactions when there was, when we weren't too sure about that. But with these portfolio allocations, what's the sense that you're getting?
Well, I would say that the big four, from an economic standpoint, are slightly different than the big four from a overall administration standpoint. But obviously, the big four from an administration standpoint give a strong sense of continuity. I would say from an investor standpoint, the big three, I would say, would be obviously finance, commerce, and road and surface transport. I think these are important from obviously from a fiscal standpoint. They're important from a Make in India and the whole PLI and everything standpoint, and they're important from an infrastructure standpoint, right? These are some of the areas that we as investors think are critical. Obviously, from a government standpoint, foreign policy, home affairs, defense are important, and maybe I can say defense is also helpful from a from an investment in domestic defense and defense spending. So I think these are important areas from investors. And so it's heartening to see that the Modi government is strongly signaling continuity in all the important areas that matter from an investor standpoint. And I think that's the key takeaway that I would emphasize.
Arvind, do you think much of the triggers are now behind us and the overhang is behind us for the FI money to come in? It's been coming in, but not a very consistent flow, I must say.
Well, look, at the end of the day, India has been a favored destination amongst emerging markets for the last couple of years. So it can't keep only coming to India. India, obviously, now that the uncertainty is out of the way, the question is, what is the India valuations? What is the India growth versus what are the valuations, growth opportunities in other emerging markets? And the reality is that India has got one of the best growth stories, but it's also one of the most expensive in the world. So in that sense, now it's, kind of judging more by, cost benefit of what are the valuations available here versus elsewhere. We're obviously long-term believers in the India story, but don't feel like just because the elections have gone behind us, we certainly have to, aggressively chase after opportunities. We're price sensitive. We are, growth at reasonable price buyers, and therefore that remains the filter through which we look at the opportunities.
What's the sense that you're getting then, Arvind, in light of this, as to what is going to potentially happen to the FII flows? Because there has been quite a bit of chop and churn when it comes to the liquidity situation.
Well, I mean, I think FII flows have other global factors, right? What's going on with interest rates globally, what's going on with risk on, risk off globally. So I think, in addition to the India-focused factors, let's look at the global factors. And I think the global factors is that there's a lot of uncertainty this week. The CPI is coming out in the US. That's important. The Fed obviously is not going to do anything to lower rates this week in their meeting, but there'll be a clearer idea about the dot plots and what's going on. And I think the markets focus on those factors to see where liquidity is going, and that obviously is going to drive funds flows also. I'm hopeful that things will look relatively benign, and I'm not expecting sharp cuts, but September may be on the table, December certainly is on the table, and if we're headed in that direction, then FIIs flows in general into non-dollar assets should continue, and in that sense, that would cause FII flows to be more consistent around the world and therefore for India.
All right, good to have you on board, Arvind. Thanks so much for joining in and giving us your view on the overall market setup. Sanjeev Bhasin